So have you heard about these things like Spring, Springboot, and Azure Spring Cloud, and you're thinking that maybe they're these little springs that you get for beds or something else? It's not quite that type of spring. And I'm joined by Gitte today as we talk all about these, what they are, and where you can get started. Hello there, welcome back to another episode of Cloud with Chris. You're with me, Chris Reddington, and here we talk about all things cloud. Now, thank you for joining today. We've got another episode here in the series. This time we're focusing a bit more on a technical topic, dare I say it. Rather than the architectural side, we're focusing on a specific technology today. So, you may have heard of these concepts or these ideas or these phrases like Spring, Spring Boot. You may have heard of Azure Spring Cloud in the past as well. And they're related to Java, and I'll be honest, that's probably about as much as I know. I am not the world's expert in Java and all these things, so I'm really excited to be joined by Gitte today as we talk all about what these are. So if you like the episode, you know what to do. Please hit the like button, please subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know as soon as we put brand new episodes up. And we are, of course, on other platforms as well: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and cloudwithchris.com as well. So with that, let's go ahead and introduce Gitte. Hey Gitte, thank you for joining. How are you doing?
Hello. Very well, thanks. Thanks. Very happy to be on this episode and to actually be your very first technical episode. So,
Exactly, yeah. It's been. I think we did something on Terraform a while ago, but it's been a while actually. A lot of the content lately has been kind of app dev or GitHub Actions and DevOps tooling. But in terms of like a concrete building block for programming and Azure, I think this is it. So yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be fun. So
no, awesome.
so let's maybe start then. Obviously, I know you. We've worked together for some time, right? But let's introduce you to some of the listeners. So, who are you?
So yeah, I'm with Microsoft and I'm a fast track engineer. So actually, same role as you had just about a month ago. We still
Absolutely.
miss you there. So and well, my focus within fast track is all things app dev. So I'm helping out customers with services like the app services, AKS, all things DevOps, all things like building event type applications. So that's a bit the background. And further, actually, because you said like Spring, Java, that's not really my space. And the thing there is, I must admit that my background there as well is all things .NET. Java for me is also still quite new, except for like some stuff I did like years ago,
Sure.
which just indicates that I'm getting old. And
No.
but still, it's a nice, first of all, a nice framework, and second of all, a nice service on Azure to get to know, especially if you're a Java developer.
Excellent.
So yeah.
Yeah, my Java days are way behind me as well. I remember back in university, I think we had some projects running on Java as well, and I don't think I've used it since, to be honest at all. I did my third year project in Ruby on Rails, and I've done some of that and some .NET, of course, and other pieces. But yeah, Java, it's been some time. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of going down memory lane for me here as well, I think, which will be fun. So I guess then I know you have some things that you want to share as well. So maybe if I bring the screen share up as well, um, I guess
Yeah.
as someone who maybe has that Java experience or doesn't have that Java experience, what is Spring first off? Like, where do we kind of start the discussion here?
Yeah, and that's the thing, because for people, well, the thing first of all, if you're a Java developer, all of this first intro stuff will make total
Sure.
sense to you. But like for people who are watching this vlog and are like, what's Spring? I'm guessing that a lot of them come from the Microsoft world and know again, yeah, what .NET is.
Hmm.
And then let me just draw like a parallel
Sure.
there. The thing is with Spring, you can kind of look at it as like it's your regular framework for building applications in Java. It's like mainly framework stuff. As you can see on this page, it has things like dependency injection in it. It has things like for testing in it. It has data access things in it. It also has an MVC framework in it.
Nice.
So you can also kind of compare it to ASP.NET
Yes.
and to ASP.NET MVC. So there as well in .NET, we have the different frameworks,
Gotcha.
right? So that's Spring for you. That's like if you are a Java developer and you want to develop something, Spring is like one of the first stops for you. There's other frameworks, of course, but like the majority of Java programmers, you see them on Spring framework.
Interesting.
Right?
Gotcha.
Then if you're a Java developer and you want to get started quickly, then there's this thing that's called Springboot, which is kind of like booting up quickly your Spring applications,
Okay.
like getting them created quickly. Like the same thing what you do in Visual Studio, where you say, I want to create a new project,
Yes.
and I pick a certain template thingy. This is what Spring Boot actually gives you. And there's actually this other page, I don't have it open yet, but it's like start.spring.io that you can use to create Spring applications.
Okay.
If it wants to load, that is, it'll load eventually. But it's like, it lets you pick like which Java version you want to use. It lets you pick like what dependencies you want to use. And for some reason, it doesn't want to load.
The
Anyways,
demo gods. There we go.
Yeah, so you pick whatever you want, and then you say, okay, generate my package, and then it actually gives you like, yeah, the project with all the files you need in
Gotcha.
it, which is actually pretty easy then to get started.
Excellent.
Like that.
Yeah, so I guess then there's these parallels, I guess, like you were saying, between .NET. You know, you've got this almost this scaffold generator, which is Springboot by the sounds of it then, and in Ruby on Rails you have a scaffold generator as well. So that makes a lot of sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, and the thing is, I do have a couple of demos I can show you as well. And the thing is, you'll actually see me using this start.spring.io in there, but like through a curl command, where I just like take the zip, unzip it, and then all the files are directly within the project. So then, yeah, that's an easy way to get started, right? And then there's Spring Cloud. And so you have Spring Framework. And then what if with Java you want to start building microservices?
Sure.
Then you need a whole bunch of other stuff. Like you need things like routing, you need circuit breakers, you need your services to be registered somewhere to discover them, and so on and so on. And that's actually the thing what that Spring Cloud gives you. These all additional concerns that you need for Java microservice applications.
Interesting. Interesting.
And that's actually the thing, like if people have existing Spring applications or Spring Cloud applications, they can then actually, if they want to run them somewhere, they can then actually bring them to Spring Cloud on Azure. And what Spring Cloud on Azure then actually is just a platform where you can just run your applications without needing to run all of the underlying infrastructure that you need for actually setting up a Spring Cloud. Like a bit the same or a bit similar with, for instance, if you want to run Kubernetes, you can either do it like setting up the VMs and putting all the bits on it, creating your master nodes, creating your worker nodes. And then like 2 weeks later, maybe you have a Kubernetes cluster up and running.
Maybe, if you're doing well.
If you do it well, like Kubernetes the hard way.
Yeah.
But same thing here. It's just a Spring Cloud that you can target to run your applications on. And that's it. And actually underneath, if you look really deep into it, it actually has Kubernetes or AKS underneath of it on Azure.
Interesting.
So you do, and which you don't need to manage at all.
Nice.
You just create a service.
And this is quite nice actually. Like I said at the very beginning, my knowledge of this whole Spring stack, as I'm going to call it, it was zero, and this all makes a lot of sense. Like, if I think about the journey from a .NET perspective, maybe I'm using .NET or C# as language equivalent maybe to Java. Obviously, there's slight differences because .NET and Java are both ecosystems, so I'm going to try and break it down slightly. But for anyone who's listening in, pedantically listening to my explanation here, but you've obviously got C# that you'd be using. You've got ASP.NET and the MVC application. You could deploy that to like an app service or an AKS or wherever you were deploying that. And Spring Boot is effectively that almost that generator, if you like, along the way of using that Visual Studio tools. Spring Framework is like that underlying MVC model, and then Spring Cloud, there will be many implementations. Like I might host that on AWS, I might host that on Azure. Each will have their own platforms I can go and implement that on. And Spring Cloud Azure is one flavor then of that platform I can go and host it on.
And it's like the hosting layer, so to speak, where you put then your code on.
Gotcha.
So
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm an expert now. Cool.
So yeah, cool. So how about I show you some demos?
I like demos. Let's do it.
You like demos?
I'm with code spaces as well. I am always a fan.
Of course, and in the browser.
Exactly.
So I so like the code spaces in the browser thingy. So no, all good. The thing is, maybe let me first show you the portal as well. The thing is, like all the things I'll be showing you, I've already set them up because like some statements do take like not that long, but like 30 seconds to a minute.
Long enough that people on the podcast will be wondering what's going on now next.
Exactly. So, but all the things I kind of like to do a lot of things just with AZ CLI statements. But like all the things that you can do with the AZ CLI, you can also do in the portal. The things that I've already prepared is I've already created the Azure Spring Cloud service. It has an application insights next to it. There's also somewhere a log analytics, but somehow I miscreated it in somewhere, like it's an existing one I already have hanging around. I have a key vault, and then I do have the log analytics workspace. I did recreate it, sorry. I have a Cosmos DB and I have a MySQL. So I'll also be showing demos where you have an application that's connecting to a database and a MySQL. And you'll actually see that within Spring Cloud, Azure Spring Cloud, there is like this neat thing to get your database or your code connected to your database. But that's already a little spoiler.
I'm intrigued. You've piqued my interest there already.
Yeah.
So all of these resources then, I think actually I'm probably going into your next segue here, but all of these resources then, they are part of that setup experience for Azure Spring Cloud. There's nothing that you had to...
No, so the thing is that the Spring Cloud and the application insights, those got created in one go. The other ones I created afterwards.
Gotcha.
So, and the log analytics I also created afterwards. So probably with the AZ statement, there's also a way of creating the log analytics at the same time. But since the creation of this one takes a bit, I was too lazy to delete it and recreate it. So
no, I think that's something.
I did it. That one I did absolutely, and actually through the portal.
And that's a really good tip for anyone who's automating, right? You've always got to look at the time it takes to automate something versus the reward back, and I think that's a very pragmatic view.
Indeed. But just to show you creation experience, like Azure Spring Cloud, and it's like a very regular creation experience that you have here. So you have your subscription, your resource group, you give the service a name, you take a certain region, and then there's 2 tiers that you can run in, basic and standard tier. The thing is, for the standard tier, it does give you then the SLA, high availability. You can do custom domains with it as well. And you can VNet integrate this one, which is often a very common ask with customers, where they say we want to block off all access, put some firewalls in front. So VNet integration is there. And one cool feature of Spring Cloud as well is this blue-green deployment thingy, which I'll show you as well in one of the demos if we have time. So the one that I have running is actually the standard one. So you can immediately have the log analytics enabled, and you can also immediately have application insights enabled. So all of this integrates with the monitoring experience within Azure. And there's also within Spring, there's this package that you can run for assembling all logs and doing distributed tracing, and all of those things, they just work out of the box. So they just neatly plug in with each other. So that's nice. Yeah. The networking. So if you want to deploy in your own virtual network, mine that I have deployed is not within a virtual network. But the thing is, you actually need the virtual network itself, and you also need 2 subnets to get started. Like there's one for the actual service to run in, and then there's one for your microservices. So they are split into 2 different subnets.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then tags, and then create.
And this networking here is only available on the standard tier.
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah. So that's only standard.
Cool.
It's actually funny that but it's saying like it's not supported.
There we go. Yeah, that's what I was just wondering. But yeah, I didn't spot that either.
That's why the page is all red.
That's true. So, that's a good indicator. Good. Okay, makes sense.
So, but then again, you can also then create it through the AZ statement. Yeah. So like AZ Spring Cloud create. One of the things that I actually found was handy when doing, and shall I make this bigger, by the way, because it's a bit small.
Awesome.
That's a bit better, I think. There we go. So one of the things that I found out when doing Spring Cloud stuff is that with a lot of those AZ statements, you have to indicate which resource group it's in and what's the name of your Spring Cloud service. Yeah. And the thing is, with AZ, you can actually configure defaults. Nice. And then you don't need to indicate resource group name and Spring Cloud name in each and every statement over and over again. It just assumes, oh, this is your Spring Cloud service, and it just performs all the statements against that one, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, I haven't used the defaults before, actually. That's a good tip. Excellent.
Yeah, exactly. So then how do you get applications into Azure Spring Cloud? And let me maybe show you the service itself, because the thing is, I've already deployed loads of stuff in there, and I'll maybe first show you in the portal what it looks like. Yeah. So you have your server or your service, and the thing is, in your service you can have multiple apps, and those apps. So you see, I have quite a lot of apps here. You see that in this case, I'm running all Java 8 on them, and they're all like. I told the service like I want one instance for each, and they're all indeed also running one instance. So yeah, as you can see, quite a lot of services here. And actually the first one is the simple microservice one. So this one already got deployed. And the way to actually deploy an app into Azure Spring Cloud, the way to do that is, first of all, you need to create the app itself. So one of the things, and I'll take this second sample. So one of the first things you need to do is actually tell Spring Cloud, well, create for me an app. Yeah, so then the app is present. It just doesn't have any code in it yet. And let me just do something like this. So I can just simply say AZ Spring Cloud, create my test app, right? And I think my defaults should still be there for my previous session with code spaces. But if it's not, I just run those statements. And this is the thing where I said, like, well, creating those things, it takes a while. And yeah, then we need to talk through it. So that's why I have everything pre-created, right? So step one.
Yeah, I was just to say, the analogy that I'm seeing here as well from everything we're talking about is thinking of Spring Cloud similar to something like App Service, right? Where, the Spring Cloud service itself, there are some servers or some implementation under the covers. Like you mentioned AKS earlier. Great, whatever. We don't need to know about that. But you create then almost like this, I don't want to use the word container because of obviously AKS, but almost this kind of box, if you like, of, this is my application, this is where it's going to deploy. And, later at a certain point, then I can see the next line on your CLI there. You've got the deploy step. So it's a bit similar then to like App Service or Azure Functions, where you spin up that environment, if you like. This is my application, and that's where I'm going to push my code to then. Makes sense.
Exactly. So, and indeed, as you say, like once you have the app, next step is just and that's actually those first lines that I have here where I say like, and this is like the start of Spring.io, where you just curl you need. You just say like which dependencies you want to have in your package, which Java version, things like
Sure.
that. Yeah. You just take that, you unzip it, and you actually see I have this folder here, simple microservice. So that what got created by the curl command. I then cd into the simple microservice, and then this is actually .NET build, right? Maven, clean package, and skip the tests because otherwise it takes too long.
Who needs tests?
Who needs tests? No, do tests. Don't say that, Chris. I'm a sucker for tests.
I agree.
But yeah, so next bit is just taking that compiled application, which is your jar file for Java, and just push it to that app. There we go. This one got created. So we did talk through that first one. But then once you have, and let me just go back to the apps here. So now it should also have a test app. There you go. So, the thing is with each application that you deploy on Spring Cloud, you also get like a test URL. And the test URL is actually like, it's like a nonsensical, like, thing. Nice. The thing is, it does translate to this one, by the way. But anyway, but like, and this is actually also very similar to web apps. For instance, if you create a new web app and you don't push any code to it, it actually says like, hooray, you're up and running.
And that's exactly what I was thinking, yeah. It looks very similar to that kind of experience.
It looks really, really similar to that one. The simple microservice one, so this one does have code pushed to it. So yeah, it's gonna, there we go. I need to click the see more again. So this one, and I think it's like a hello controller that's in that. So, hello from Azure Spring Cloud. So this one actually has code running in it. It's actually a very, very simple application.
I mean, it says simple microservice, so.
It says simple microservice. So the only thing I did with this one was like, I added an hello controller right here. And then it just has like hello in it. So that's the only code that's in there.
And then obviously
so really, really easy.
All of that code there then is almost Java that is within that Spring framework kind of context then. So again, a bit like the MVC context, you would make a controller in MVC. This is a controller then within Spring framework. Yeah,
this is how you write the controller in Spring. Exactly.
Cool.
Like so the thing is actually that if you're a Java programmer and you have Java applications with the Spring framework, you can actually just push them to Azure Spring Cloud.
Yeah,
so that's
exactly what I was thinking. I like the elegance of this, that it is just, you don't need to repackage it, you don't need to do anything. It's just point it over there instead. Off you go.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then the thing is as well, like if you want to look then at monitoring, you see these little notes for myself. If you then want to see, for instance, or look at monitoring, for instance, that also just works. But I'll say just works because I kind of found a bug on that one. Well, a bug, I'm actually still figuring out whether it's me who has done something wrong or whether it's actually a bug. I did flag it to the product group to see what might be going on. But the thing is, like, for instance, in application insights, you have like, maybe first take this view. You have like the application map where you can see who is calling who on your microservices. All of that also just works. And again, between quotes, because it should actually tell like this microservice is calling that microservice, that one is calling that microservice, but you actually see like the underlying hosts in between the calls. I also have no idea whether maybe I need to like do a setting thingy in application insights, but application insights is not my most well-known service, let's say. So, but yeah, but all of the monitoring you can just do with Azure Spring Cloud as well, which is pretty neat as well.
Oh, excellent. I like the fact, again, it is almost just plug and play, right? When you had that setup process, you had do you want log analytics, do you want app insights, you turn that on, and yes, on that per microservice basis, I guess you'll need to say yes or no whether you want to opt into that
Well, it's actually for the entire
It is,
Spring
okay.
Cloud service. So you don't even need to do it on a per
Nice.
microservice
Okay.
basis.
Excellent.
One of the things is that there is like this package, if I'm not mistaken, in Spring that actually starts collecting information. But then I think that's that setting, but I need to double check because again, my Java skills
All
aren't
good.
well enough on that space. But it could be that it's this enabled Java agent that you don't even need that package. Like similar with .NET,
Gotcha.
there we also have something like that, right? Where you say like web apps, it's just
Yeah.
collecting the
Yeah.
metrics, and you don't even need to care about
Makes sense.
it. So
Good.
yeah.
Cool.
One other cool thing, which is like, and I'll show this one in the portal instead of the AZ statement. One of the other cool things in Spring or Spring Cloud is a concept named config server. I don't know if I say the name config server to you, Chris, what do you think about it? What do you think it will do?
I think it's probably going to map back to another Azure service, and that Azure service might be something like app config.
Almost. But it's similar.
Okay.
It does something similar. Like it actually helps you externalize all configuration for your services, right? That's actually what app config also does. Except here in config server, that other like externalized state, it can be, for instance, Git.
Oh, interesting.
So you can actually put your state in GitHub. And I actually even did something funky here, because the thing is, there's like, I have in other samples like a application that's called Piggy Metrics. I won't show that here today. That one, oops, where did my cursor go? There we go. But the Piggy Metrics, they actually use also a Git repo, which is a public one. So you can actually just go to this one, and it actually has like config for the entire application. So this is just a YAML file with all the config in it. Maybe make this a bit bigger as well. That's a bit too big. There we go. So this is overall application config. Then there's a couple of services running, like an account service, an out service, things like that. And then you have the configuration specifically for that service. Also, you see one reason to make those things private. Yes. And that's one thing I actually haven't tried out yet, but one of the things I would like to try out in Git, you can also create secrets in the settings of your project. Yep. And whether you can then link the secrets here and then get them imported like that, and they don't need to be in clear text and in the files here. But anyway, no idea whether that works. That's just me like fantasizing how it might work.
Yeah, because those secrets are typically for GitHub Actions, so I wonder that'll be a Spring Cloud for Azure implementation detail, I guess. Interesting. No, it's a good thought, but yeah.
Well, the thing is, the secrets are for GitHub Actions, but you can also have secrets for code spaces.
True.
So I actually have in one of the demos, I use that where I have a secret in my code space, and then it gets injected in your code space as an environment variable.
Interesting.
And then you can use it like that, which is a cool feature as well.
Yeah,
but,
interesting.
Yeah, there you go. So you have this one config thingy, but I also have a second config server, which is this one. And this one is actually a private one. Right. So this is a repository that I have. There you go. Here at the top, you can see this is a private one. And the thing is, if you have a private repository, you can also add them as a config or to the config server. Yeah. Then you can use certain types of authentication. I think I now set it up with basic authentication, which was the easiest way to set it up.
It's just like a personal access token type thing. Yeah.
Indeed. And actually, let me just quickly double check. But I think this statement where I add the config server, there we go. This is actually where I use that secret that I put in my GitHub code space.
Gotcha. There we go. We see it all coming together. Good.
Yeah, so you don't see my GitHub password because this code is also, by the way, in one of the repositories in my GitHub, but then you don't see my GitHub password. which is a different password than the one that I usually use, by the way. This is like a personal access token thing.
Security, folks. Security.
Security, yeah. Plus, the security token is only scoped to this Spring config repository. So you could only screw up that one if you might get hold of it. Anyway, so I added the config server through that second one through the AZ statement. But like once you have that config server, the thing is that, and I think that's this one where I did that. Let me just quickly check which one. It's the Spring Cloud microservice. So if you don't have like a microservice, and if we go here to the Java code, so this one also has a hello controller. And you see here, it uses a certain value that's like application message. And the application message says this one is not configured by Spring Cloud Server. So the thing is, if I cd into this one and then I cd into that Spring microservice, so this one, and I do let me just, so you don't see me typing that much. Just a second. This one, okay. So if I do a Maven clean package of this one, so I'm building that Spring Cloud microservice. Exactly. And then next step is I will run that one.
So you're running that locally then at that point?
I'm running that then locally.
So bearing in mind for everyone here, not locally, but locally on the GitHub code space, remember?
Exactly. And then if I just open a new window here, and then if I curl that thing, it says not configured by Spring Cloud Server. Yeah. So it's giving me the message, like the default message that's here, right? Now, the thing is, if I take that same service and so what I actually did was I created an app again for it. I pushed it up there and I'm going to Control-C out of this one because it's annoying. So let me just, there we go. So I built it, I pushed it up there to the Spring Cloud microservice service. Yeah. So if I go to my apps and I take that Spring Cloud microservice, so this one, and then we take the test endpoint for this one, and I do hello, of course. There we go. You see, it says configured by Azure Spring Cloud, and where does it come from? If you look at this one, you see it has an application message that says configured by Azure Spring Cloud, which is like really magic stuff.
So the configuration is just coming straight from that Git repository that you showed us then. Makes sense.
Exactly. The thing is, I did have to do some magic stuff and some digging into how config server on Spring works, because I actually have these two config servers, like these two configurations currently. And like there's something magic with this name thingy that's going on. So that has to match somehow the microservice name for it to be picked up.
Right. It's almost like the pointer in the reference then, right?
Exactly. And the thing is, I'm actually not quite sure at the moment whether it's taking this YAML file or this YAML file. It has the same content. I should actually change the content and then see which one gets. But yeah, there is some magic there on that one. But it's cool. It's actually nice thing. So
I like it.
So, how about we connect to a database?
Let's do it. Every application has to have a database, pretty much, right?
Exactly. And the thing is, with Azure Spring Cloud, the cool thing is what you can actually do is with your apps, and I think this should be, which one is this? This is the city service. So if I go to the city service, the thing is in Azure Spring Cloud, you can define something that's called service bindings. And these service bindings, you connect them to a service in Azure, like Cosmos DB, for instance. Or, let me just do create here. You can do that to Redis Cache, MySQL, Postgres, SQL Server, Service Bus, Event Hubs, and apparently there's others as well. No idea what happens with the others, but anyway. But the thing is, you just say, okay, this is the thing I want to connect to. That's the resource name within Azure. it's this API type, that's a database name, that's a key I want to connect with,
Yep.
yada, yada. So you fill it all out, you say add, create, and it actually adds this binding thingy in your Spring service. Yeah. In my case, the way I set it up was, so again, I got the code for this thingy, and I created a city service, that city service app. I got the details for my Cosmos DB. So I needed the ID to actually create that binding. So same as what you just saw in the portal. And then the thing is in the code itself. So there you need to do, well, it's not like really magic in the code, but which one was it? City service, there we go. So in the source for this thing, what you'll see is I have like a city POCO.
Yep.
Yeah. So a plain old, what is it? Class of POJO Java object. Sorry, POCO is so C#. It's also a plain old Java object.
Yep.
POJO. Yeah.
I went with you.
I have my city controller, and right here I have things like where I say, well, this is my Cosmos DB URI, this is the key, this is the database, and it gets all of that from the binding.
Gotcha. So if you
so you see it creates like a container, like Cosmos DB client builder thingy. So that's your container, and then you can use that container to start creating things. And that's it.
So it's really a case then of mapping the pieces that you showed in the portal there back to the application, because one of my questions was going to be, is this almost like a facade or an interface where you could then call this database kind of thing, but that level of abstraction you'd still need to take away in your application and have like a data layer or similar, but you could easily change between those by using these service bindings. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, like the service binding, that one has all the details of how you need to connect to the Cosmos DB.
Gotcha.
And your app doesn't need to know. It's just using that service binding that is there.
Which is quite nice, right? Because it takes away the complexity then of like a DevOps process as well, having to know the passwords in that piece as well. It is all within that Spring Cloud service and that binding, and ultimately they're within Azure.
It's all within the binding, yeah. Exactly. And I think it's cities. So yeah, it's working. So these are like the cities that are in my Cosmos DB. There's like one small container thingy or database in there. And you could actually do the same thing with, and that's, I'll not show that demo because it's actually very similar. The code is a bit different, but there's a similar one for MySQL. So MySQL works as well. One maybe other thing to show is like within Spring Cloud, one of the things you can also do is like create gateways to your microservices. And a gateway is actually like a like the public endpoint to your microservices. And the cool thing with gateways is that you can actually have it that service discovery thingy. They can actually do the service discovery for you and then expose services through service discovery. Like for instance, I have one of my apps in my Spring Cloud is actually I have two gateways, but it's the second one, the gateway 2 that I got deployed. And this gateway 2, the code for it, it is somewhere in the source, I think in the resources in the application.yaml file. So this is actually like the configuration for the gateway. And what you actually say is like use discovery, it's enabled, and then allow get on all things, more or less. Yeah, so it's just discovering the microservices that are out there, and it's exposing a get operation. And once you have that, what you can then do is like this URL that you see here. Yeah. So it's actually, this is like the base thingy for where my Spring Cloud is located. But then I can say, well, I have this city service here, which is actually the name of that app. And this one has a city's endpoint to it. So if I curl this one, there we go. You actually see that I get the same response back.
Which is actually going from the Cosmos DB. And I guess this other one then is the MySQL that you would have shown then.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, indeed. So, and that's actually pretty cool as well. Like the gateway then becomes the public entry point for your application. Yeah, that's actually a neat thing to have there.
That gateway, I noticed that you had the resources folder as well as a source folder, and you've kind of built the gateway there as well. So is that something that, as an end user, I would have to write a gateway myself, or is it just?
The thing is that the gateway, I think I needed to add something in the POM file for this as well,
Okay.
but I'm not entirely sure.
But it's
so
not like I have to write my own reverse proxy or anything like that. It's something that's
no. It's just like a thingy in Spring
Gotcha.
Cloud where like there's like this gateway, this dependency that you see
just
here,
like a convention.
and it's because of that.
Makes sense.
Exactly. But let me just quickly see, because here in the dependencies you also see that you add like Cloud Gateway.
Yes, I see. Okay.
So that's how it, and the POM file, for instance, by the way, for .NET developers, that's like your CS project file. Well, more or less, but it has all your dependencies, which version you're running, and so on. That's like the POM.
No, makes sense.
I'm probably, by the way, for any Java developers listening on this one, I'm probably saying wrong things here or there on Java. But
hey, it's all good.
If
they are listening, they can jump into the comments and let us know, and we can all learn together.
Exactly. Yeah. Teach me the Java bits. That's, yeah, exactly. Maybe one last thing. Well, two last things. There's two things I still want to show you, just because I think they are pretty neat. One thing that's neat to know, that's just built in to Azure Spring Cloud, and I'll just which one? The weather service. Let me just see if I already executed this bit. But the thing is, like doing things like blue-green deployments is actually pretty nice with Azure Spring Cloud, and I already did it for this one. The thing is, you can actually easily like add an additional slot, and in Spring Cloud it's called a deployment to your application. So in this case, the default slot is always there.
Okay.
I added the green slot, which is the staging one. And then what you can then do to the green one is you can actually deploy additional code there. Let me just see weather service, where is it? So if we go to the source main Java and we take the weather controller, so this is already uncommented. So then I can build that part. There we go. So if I cd into the right directory, it's the weather one. There we go. And then I package that one. There we go. So if I build that version, and currently, by the way, the weather service, if we go to the default one and we look at that endpoint, what it's saying is this weather. How do I go to this one? What's the URL? Just a sec. It's weather service. So I need this one. No, I need this one. Weather. There we go. This should work. Okay, so you see that in Paris, it's very cloudy, weather fog, right? And the new version that I'm deploying there, I'm saying that it's always sunny wherever you go, right? So I just built that one. The deployment create, that will probably not work because this one is still there. So I need to delete this one. There we go. So I'm going to create that green deployment again, and I am going to upload that new version of the code to it. And the thing is, you can then, what you'll see is once that deployment is there, you'll see that on the weather service, you'll have this green slot. And then you can say, give me the weather, and then the city, which is just your, the thingy string. It has a name, that thing. But anyway, like the parameter, not the parameter string, but like, you know what I mean, with you. Right? You know what I mean, exactly. So, and the thing is then, like, I'll test it out once it's there, the code, so you can see that it's saying that it's always sunny. And then the thing is, I can actually, like with this one statement, actually make then green the production deployment. So then when you hit the base URL of that service, you get the sunny version.
So very similar to that service with the slots and swapping the slots across. Exactly.
And the thing is, if I'm not happy with the changes, I can roll that back. And if I've rolled it back, then I can say, well, get rid of that green deployment slot, which is
I
like
see.
app
I
service.
see. That's what that set deployment command is doing. It's saying, right, this is now the live.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
this is now the live
Gotcha.
one, and you can do something similar in the portal as well. So here for the weather service, so in the deployments right here, so you see the green is there again. I can actually say here set as production.
Nice,
So that's the same thing, or set as staging. That's actually the same thing as what I'm doing here. There we go with that statement. So if I curl this one, let's see.
Sunny.
There we go. It's always sunny. Voila, excellent.
Excellent.
And if I make this one the default one, did I have, so this is the default one. So this one is still saying foggy. Once this comes through, it should also say that it's always sunny in Paris.
Gotcha.
Which is a cool thing there.
Nice.
So yeah, I have no idea how long it needs to
but it
actually
makes sense though. Effectively,
do that.
We're mapping the endpoints to that underlying deployment. Then makes sense.
Yeah. Indeed. And then one more thing while this is running, I'll come back to there we go. See, I'll come back
See,
to
the
that one.
demos are listening.
If I refresh this one, oh, where are my demo gods? What am I doing wrong? This is the default one. I just did a switch. Come on, Control F5.
Yeah, maybe a caching thing.
I'm gonna say this is caching.
There we go. Well, I'm with you. It's a caching thing.
You're with me. The curl works. That's maybe if I do the curl thingy here on the default one now and not the green one. There we go. And then curl this one. Oh, no, still very cloudy. No idea what I'm doing wrong. Did I do the set default? I did that.
I think so.
Anyways, you're gonna have to believe me on
I
on
believe
this
you.
one.
I believe you.
Anyway.
And if anyone doesn't, you can run your own demos and try this out as well. And let us know in the comments.
The thing, by the way, and I guess that you'll probably post it somewhere, Chris,
yes.
but the thing is, all the things that I've been doing or showing is like in my Git repository. It's actually this 7 training folder. It's where most of the demos came from. And the thing is, these demos, they are actually based upon, and let me show you. So there is, wait, let me just search for Spring. There we go. So this one, which is also, I think, a private one. Oh, no, it's not a private one. But there's like this Microsoft Azure Spring Cloud training repository, which is actually, if you want to learn Spring Cloud, it's a very, it's all the things that I've just shown you, except for CI/CD, which was trivial in my opinion. So I can
imagine it's trivial from everything you've shown. It is literally just run the Maven commands, run the Azure CLI deployments, and off you go.
Exactly. It's really, really easy, that nice. One. So you can actually just run through it. Like the one thing that's not in that the Spring Cloud training thing is something that's, and I think I have it here. But one of the things you can actually do in Spring Cloud, and let me just see, there we go. One of the things when you create your app is you can also say -- assign identity. 3 guesses what that does.
Managed identity under the covers assigned to the app, I guess.
Exactly. So in that case, if you do on your app when you create it, and you say you can also update it with an identity, it actually, the app itself gets a managed identity, and you can then, as a next step, query for that managed identity. So this is the service identity. I can then say, for instance, to a key vault, I can say, okay, now give this managed identity the following permissions. In this case, I say the set, the get, and the list one. And then you can, from that app, connect to the key vault.
Excellent.
Through the managed identity.
Nice.
Which is a neat way of doing that.
Very much, especially for those secret credentials that you don't want people getting access to, or certificates or whatnot.
Indeed.
Excellent.
Indeed.
Good.
So yeah, and this one actually, so if you look at that repository that I have, the thing is, in each, like the 0.1 until 0.6, there's like a README in each of them, which is tells you what thingy I was trying out, and it's like actually just from 1 to 6, it's just going through our docs and just typing what was there.
Nice.
So this is me trying things
Oh,
out.
excellent.
So
I think
yeah.
there'll certainly be some great materials for people just to even have a look through and just understand thought processes. I mean, this discussion already for me, and I'm sure anyone listening in, right, has shined just a light on actually Spring and Spring Boot and Spring Cloud aren't really that scary things that they sound like when you don't really know much about them. Actually, it makes a lot of sense. No, it sounds great.
Yeah.
Looks great.
Indeed. So I hope, Chris, that as of tomorrow you start picking up your Java skills
Oh,
again.
absolutely. I'm reading the books tonight. I'm going to be we'll have
Excellent.
another chat tomorrow and we'll be talking different languages here.
That was the goal I
There
was
we
going
go.
for.
Excellent. No, I think that's been a really great session, Gitte. Thank you. So I guess, as we start wrapping up and closing here, I think for me, one of the things is, like I just said there, how actually relatable all of this is. And, I think there is so much to learn in technology, right? There's so many different things going on, and sometimes it can be overwhelming, but this seems really accessible. So I guess, is there anything to share from your experiences where you've been learning this and coming from that .NET background and some of these app service backgrounds already? Is there any maybe tips, tricks, or insights along the way that are worth sharing?
Well, one of the things that like the thing is like this training thingy that we have, yeah. And I went through that training, I think, well, I went through it like 6 months to a year ago already when Spring Cloud was really new. And then I went through it again like 2 months ago or something together with a colleague. We were like in an internal training thing. And that colleague that went through it together with me, he's also like fully non-Java,
I know the
all
colleague.
.NET
Yeah, I
background.
know who we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And we were going through that training together. And at the end of the training, he was like, "Wow, this is so easy for Java developers. I wish we had something like this just for .NET,
Yeah.
like the blue-green stuff that's just built
Yeah.
in. The fact that you can just easily link to those databases and don't need to worry about things in your code and the config
Yeah.
things." So he was totally stumped, aside from the fact that we don't really like Java that much. But he was like, wow, this is the ease of like how easy it is for developers to do things here.
Yes.
That's just
No,
amazing.
completely agree. And
So that's like yeah, like one of the like
yeah.
afterthoughts on Spring Cloud.
And in fact, as you were explaining all of this in my mind, I was thinking I can now understand why, in app service we have things like PowerShell, .NET, etc., and why Java doesn't show up there, because I think this, as an experience, given that that's kind of the approach for Java, right, as Spring Framework, it just makes so much sense to have this as the platform and as the approach, and the simplicity, as you say, is just outstanding. So, yeah, I guess if you're a
And
Java developer, this
the,
makes
the,
sense.
yeah, and the thing is as well, like on Azure as a Java developer, you have other
Absolutely.
choices as well,
Absolutely.
by the way. This isn't the only choice. But like the other choices are indeed either app service, and nothing bad about app service. Like app service is a great service to run your web app workloads in. And if it's only like a web app that you have and that you need to host,
Yes.
web apps is a great place to
Yes.
land. One of the things is probably you'll go for the Linux version of app service, and probably you may want to containerize and then run containerized. Although you don't have to. There's like base images that you can use, and then you also just drop in your code and it runs in like one of the app service base images. It runs containerized, but you don't really see it as running
Yes.
containerized
Yeah.
then. So that's one option that you have. And another option that you have is actually doing the full, like if you're Java and doing microservices, is then looking maybe at Kubernetes and AKS. And then you do need to containerize and take the entire, let's say, the learning curve.
Yes.
You need to go through it as well. And that's like typically like that learning curve with AKS. Also there, AKS, great service, and you can do loads of stuff with it. But if it's like simple microservices that you want to do,
Is it a bit overkill? Yeah.
this Yeah, exactly,
And it comes
exactly.
back to that discussion, doesn't it, about just understanding, and I mention it many times on this show, but understanding requirements and understanding,
Mm,
do you care more about the management or the ease of deployment and what other things you care about? Because there are definitely options out there. Ultimately, you just need to understand that wider context. And like you say, I think this is just such a great service and really simple and elegant
mm,
for those Spring framework type solutions and
mm.
applications.
And the thing is, the customers that I've spoken to who do Spring
Yeah,
stuff in their
yeah,
on-prem currently, when they see Azure Spring Cloud, they are like, "Whoa!" They like like
excited.
it's a game
Yeah, yeah,
changer
yeah.
for them.
Excellent,
So I do see a lot of customers being excited about this one.
excellent.
So yeah,
Brilliant. Well, Gitte, thank you so much. I think that has been an absolutely amazing session. I've learned tons in this, so definitely got my value out of this, and I'm sure everyone else who will be listening in will as well. So thank you very much for joining, and we'll have to get you on again to talk about something else, I'm sure.
yeah, very happy. Well, it was a joy being here. It was it was very relaxed talk, so I really enjoyed it.
Excellent.
And we'll come up with other topics
Absolutely.
for any next sessions.
Brilliant. Well, stay
Awesome.
safe and stay healthy, and thank you for joining.
Likewise.
So there we go, folks. Wow, what a brilliant session that was. And hopefully you could tell that I learned a lot as well just from the questions and the things that I was asking along the way. So you know what to do, right? If you like this session, please go ahead, hit that like button, hit subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you know as soon as we bring out new content. And of course, we are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and cloudwithchris.com as well. If you prefer this type of content, this deeper, technical, more focused on a specific service, let us know, because we can make sure we get guests and speakers in, and myself can go ahead and focus on that type of content. Your likes and your opinions and your comments really let us know where you want us to go and focus. So please go ahead, get in touch, whether that's on Twitter or through the channels I mentioned a bit earlier. So with that, thank you again for tuning in. Hope you all stay safe and healthy. And until next time, bye for now.